Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14.
Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
The great day of the Lord is near. It is near, and hasteth greatly.
It hasteth greatly.
Even the voice of the day of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
The mighty man shall cry there bitterly.
Mm-hmm.
That day is a day of wrath,
Mm-hmm.
a day of trouble and distress,
Mm-hmm.
a day of wastedness and desolation,
Mm-hmm.
a day of darkness and gloominess,
Mm-hmm.
a day of clouds and thick darkness,
Mm-hmm.
a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers.
See, the thing is that a lot of people, they desire to see this time. A lot of the prophets desire to see this time, but yet we who are living in it are afraid of it. And the reason why is because we have a problem with seeing the forest through the trees. See, Baruch wasn't excited for the death and the destruction that would come by the hand of the Most High. He wanted what came after it. He was able to see what came after. That's what he desired to see. We have to understand, we live in these times not for the times themselves, but what comes after these times. He said, the day of the Lord cometh quickly, echoing the statements that the Most High made to Baruch and the understanding of the day of the Lord. It's not slack, and it will mark the end of Esau's kingdom in their presence in the land of Israel. Notice what it said there in particular. It said, go ahead back and read verse. Go ahead and read verse
15.
Yes, verse 15.
Verse 15. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wastedness and desolation,
Mm-hmm.
a day of darkness and gloominess,
Mm-hmm.
a day of clouds and thick darkness.
How many of you have dreamed about this or seen this in your imagination or had a vision of this and was terrified? Hey, I know. Ain't nobody raising their hands. How many of y'all read this and was like, the rapture? How many of y'all did? Listen, I know everybody in this room experienced it. Put a 1 in the chat if you've done it. When you were in the Christian church sitting there reading this, and you're like, whoo, thank God I ain't going to be here for that. And how many of you felt fear when you found out that the rapture wasn't coming? See, understand that this, what we're reading, is an example of the Most High's long-suffering grace and mercy. Check out, read that last verse, verse 16.
Verse 16. A day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers.
Against the fenced cities and against the high towers. He's coming to destroy those who have taken habitation in his land. Let's get 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. We're coming to a close here.
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout,
Mm-hmm.
and the voice of the archangel,
Mm-hmm.
and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first.
And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Right? So now we see at that trump, at the trump of God, right? Christ and the Most High himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. What we just read. The Most High said, I remember those from the past, I remember those from the present, but I also remember those who would come. So those who have died in Christ will rise first. Read.
Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with him in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Right? We'll be changed.
Come on.
See, our change is going to be different from the change that's experienced from those who have died. See, a lot of people don't understand the way that process works. The reason why burial is so important, right? The reason why burial is so important is because when the body goes down into the earth and it's broken down and it's taken by the worms in the soil, how many of you know that flesh is being purified? The Most High is using the earth to return that present body back into what he originally created Adam to be. He's turning mortality into immortality. Remember, Adam came from the earth himself. Adam came from the earth himself, and he was immortal, right? That means that immortality exists in the fibers of the earth. He's rebuilding us through burial to obtain that form again. But for those who haven't died and haven't been buried, our change comes differently. We're changed. That's the significance of baptism. I mean, not of baptism, but of burial. Those in the time that is to come, in the end, none of that's of our concern. None of it's of our concern. Do we have understanding as to when the end will come? Absolutely. I mean, we study it. We know the calendar. We got an inkling of an idea. But is it any of our concern? No. Because our worrying is not going to make the end come faster or slower. There are still things that have to be revealed. And until then, our job is to take heed of the memorial of Christ's return, the memorial blowing of trumpets, to utilize the Day of Atonement to prepare ourselves spiritually for our return to the wilderness and the Feast of Tabernacles. See, a lot of people, they don't understand, they aren't taking heed of this warning. And a lot of people, they aren't preparing their souls, they aren't testing their souls, they aren't fasting, they aren't praying to atone themselves, to cleanse themselves, to rid themselves of things that they cannot carry into the wilderness. I'm going to say that again. You have to be able to rid yourself of spirits and of demons that cannot come with you into the wilderness. Because if they come with you, they will be the death of you. I promise.
Come on.
That's the real test. Right now, this is just pop quizzes. But when you get there, it's one strike of something worthy of death, and you're out.